Resuming debate, the honourable member for Saskatoon-Grasswood.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. It's a pleasure to rise in the House. I will be sharing my time with the honourable member from Souris Moose Mountain. It's been kind of a history lesson here today. We've heard from the Hudson Bay Company, and we've heard from Meech Lake and Charlottetown Accord, and it's kind of been refreshing going back over 100 years as we sit here today talking about the Saskatchewan Act. I give credit to the member from Regina-Lewvan for bringing this very important motion to the House here today. I chair the Saskatchewan Caucus, and for the second consecutive election, we returned 14 out of 14 Conservative MPs to the House. So I think it's very important, Madam Speaker, that we open the dialogue today, have a wholesome discussion on the Saskatchewan Act and really what it means to my province, because we're only maybe 1.2 million in population. And so when you look at this CP rail of $341 million, I don't have to tell you $341 million to a population of 1.2 million is very substantial. Yes. Very substantial. So getting into it, you can start way back, Madam Speaker, to October 21st, 1880. I'm going to give you some history now, as you've had many history lessons in this House this morning and this afternoon. It was the Government of Canada that entered into the contract with the Canadian Pacific Railway Syndicate for the construction of the Canadian Pacific Railway, which we all know back then was trailblazing. It opened this country up from east to west, part of it Saskatchewan. But Clause 16 of that 1880 Canadian Pacific Railway contract, the federal government agreed to give the tax exemption to the Canadian Pacific Railway Company, and that's what we're talking about here today. In 1905, as everyone knows, the Parliament of Canada passed the Saskatchewan Act, which created my province of Saskatchewan. Canadian Pacific Railway Company has paid applicable taxes to the government of Saskatchewan since the province was established. Now, that has been a topic of conversation today, but I want it on the record. They have paid to the Saskatchewan government. CP is currently attempting, though, to use a clause in the Saskatchewan Act as justification to avoid paying any provincial taxes on its main line. This represents, as I said, Madam Speaker, an enormous revenue loss for the provincial government and the people of Saskatchewan, only 1.2 million strong. It is only fair that CP, as a corporate giant, pays its share. I think we all agree in the House. In 1966, Ian Sinclair, then the CP Rail president, agreed to a constitutional amendment to eliminate this tax exemption. The constitutional change is the quick and efficient way to make this happen, and it shouldn't happen without any delay. The province of Saskatchewan adopted the motion back then to amend the Saskatchewan Act and the Constitution of Canada during that fall sitting. So in December, the Saskatchewan Conservative Regional Caucus urged this federal government to support the Saskatchewan government's approved motion to repeal Section 24 of the Saskatchewan Act. That Section 24 of the Act contains a contentious exemption for Canadian Pacific Railway from various Saskatchewan provincial taxes. In order for this section to be removed, though, a similar motion must now be passed at the federal level, here in the House and also in the Senate. And that is why Canada's Conservatives are calling on the federal government to listen to the Saskatchewan government and support the motion that we have put forward today in the House to repeal Section 24 of the Saskatchewan Act. The tax loss to Saskatchewan would hurt provincial services if the Liberal government refuses to stand up for tax fairness and ensure that CP Rail pays its fair share to the people of Saskatchewan. CP Rail, as I mentioned, is a corporate giant. There is no reason why they should enjoy an exemption from provincial taxes. There is also no reason why this government should delay in responding to the provincial government's request. Canada's Conservatives are always on Saskatchewan's side. Those tax dollars need to stay right home in my province of Saskatchewan. CP and the Saskatchewan government have been engaged now about 13 years in a legal battle with the railway seeking roughly $341 million. It's coming out now because the provincial legislature in Saskatchewan passed a motion unanimously November 29th of 2021. In Saskatchewan legislature, just to fill you in, there's only two parties there. Saskatchewan Party is the official government, and the official opposition is the NDP. So here you have the Sask Party and the NDP agreeing on one thing. The Saskatchewan Act has to come to the House of Commons and later to the Senate. I have spoken to the Saskatchewan Justice Minister, Gord Wyatt, a couple of times dealing with the Saskatchewan Act. The Saskatchewan Justice Minister was quoted as saying, and I quote, "We're going to vigorously defend the claim that's been brought by the railway to defend the interests of the people of Saskatchewan." End of quote. This resolution needs to be approved by the federal government, passed through the House of Commons right here in front of 338 members, and then on to the Senate. Minister Wyatt has had conversations, I know, with the federal justice minister on this issue of the Saskatchewan Act, and we are hoping today that the motion will move forward. It is my understanding that several MLAs in my province have even reached out to Saskatchewan senators to start the dialogue, because if we can pass the motion through here, it goes to the Senate. So the conversations have started not only here today in the House of Commons, but more importantly in the Senate, where they'll have to deal with this. As members of this House are likely aware, CPR is suing the government of Saskatchewan for the $341 million. They claim a broad tax exemption under Section 24. This matter is currently before the courts, so really, most of us really do not want to talk about that because it is before the court. Therefore, government of Saskatchewan believes today it is time to repeal Section 24, regardless of whether it is in force or not. Madam Speaker, if the tax exemption remains in force, I don't have to tell you and members of this House, it creates a substantial inequity within our own province. $341 million eliminated on the tax of only $1.2 million in our province. As a matter of the tax policy and business competitiveness, there must be a level playing field for all businesses in our province of Saskatchewan. We all agree all businesses should pay their fair share of taxes. And by supporting this motion, it would send a strong signal to my province of Saskatchewan. They desperately want the Saskatchewan Act, the motion today passed. It would show federal support from that side of the House and the opposition parties that we do care about the province of Saskatchewan. This is an important motion put forward today by Regina-Lewvan, the MP for the Regina-Lewvan. He has been a member of the Saskatchewan legislature before he became a member of parliament. He knows very well the pressures on the provincial government in Saskatchewan. He was in their caucus for a number of years, and he knows firsthand, being a small province, we don't have a lot of corporate businesses in our province. CP Rail is one of the biggest. And it has been mentioned today, they make a lot of profit. And profit is good. But at the same time, you must pay your fair share of taxes. Madam Speaker, that's it. On behalf of the residents of Saskatoon-Grasswood, it's been a pleasure to speak on the motion by Regina-Lewvan MP on the Saskatchewan Act. Thank you very much.